भाई और बहनों, आपका स्वागत है। संसद टीवी जो एकम सत का कार्यक्रम चला रही है, जिसमें अनेक धर्मों की प्रस्तुति होती है, आज हम उसी श्रृंखला में बौद्ध धर्म के बारे में कुछ बातें सीखेंगे। बौद्ध धर्म तो दक्षिण और दक्षिण पूर्व एशिया में बहुत ही विस्तृत है। अनेक देश हैं जो बौद्ध धर्म को अपनाए हुए हैं और ये उनकी जो सारी शिक्षा है वो सब नालंदा से ही गई। जितने वो लोग हैं, नालंदा में पढ़ के उन्होंने जाके अपने देश में प्रचार किया बौद्ध धर्म का। तो नालंदा 600 वर्ष के लिए आप जानते हैं एक विश्व में सबसे बड़ा शैक्षणिक केंद्र था और वहीं से ये बुद्ध का प्रचार हुआ।
प्राचीन भारत में तक्षशिला विश्वविद्यालय विश्व के प्राचीनतम विश्वविद्यालयों में से एक था। चाणक्य यहाँ पर आचार्य हुआ करते थे। 405 ईस्वी में फाहियान यहाँ आया था। बंटवारे के बाद ये स्थान पाकिस्तान में चला गया है। नालंदा विश्वविद्यालय भी उच्च शिक्षा के लिए दुनिया का प्रमुख केंद्र हुआ करता था। बौद्ध समेत अनेक धर्मों के शिक्षार्थी यहाँ रहते थे। इसी तरह विक्रमशिला विश्वविद्यालय एक जमाने में भारत का प्रसिद्ध शिक्षा केंद्र हुआ करता था। वर्तमान में ये बिहार के भागलपुर जिले में स्थित है।
तो बुद्ध धर्म के 3 प्रमुख अभिव्यक्तियां हैं। एक हिनायना जो श्रीलंका में है अधिकतर, एक महायाना जो अधिकतर फैला हुआ है, और एक वज्रयाना जो तिब्बत और लद्दाख में जो हिंदू तंत्र और बौद्ध धर्म के बीच में सम्मिश्रण के रूप में आया है, वो आया हुआ है। तो ये तो विस्तृत बातें हैं। और हमारे धर्म के ऊपर बौद्ध धर्म का कितना असर पड़ा है, हमारे धर्म के ऊपर, हमारी संस्कृति के ऊपर, जो हमारा ध्वज है, वो जो चक्र है बीच में, वो भी एक बौद्ध चिन्ह है। हमारा जो राष्ट्रीय ध्वज है, वो शेर जो शायद दिखाते हैं, वो स्तंभ सारनाथ संग्रहालय में पड़ा हुआ, कई बार उसके मैंने दर्शन किए, उसी से लिया है वो, जो हमारा राष्ट्रीय चिन्ह है। और हमारे जो संसद में, लोकसभा में जो अध्यक्ष हैं, उनके आसन के पीछे धर्म चक्र प्रवर्तनाय लिखा हुआ है, जो बौद्ध धर्म का एक अंग है। तो ये सब बातें जानते हुए, और मैं चाहे हम भारतवर्ष में लोग बौद्ध धर्म के अनुयायी अपने आप को न कहें, लेकिन कोई ऐसा व्यक्ति नहीं होगा जो भगवान बुद्ध का आदर न करता हो। जो भगवान बुद्ध को, जैसे हम और अपने भगवानों की पूजा करते हैं, वैसे भगवान बुद्ध का भी आदर करते हैं। तो इस धर्म के बारे में कहने के लिए कुछ बातें हमारे सामने आदरणीय गेशदोर जी दामदुल आए हुए हैं, जो तिब्बत हाउस दलाई लामा के सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रम के लिए बना हुआ दिल्ली में, उसके डायरेक्टर हैं और बड़े अनुभवी हैं। उन्होंने काफ़ी लिखा भी है, किताबें भी लिखी हैं, और देश विदेश में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय जो कहाँ कार्यक्रम होते हैं वहाँ वो जाते हैं। और हमारे यहाँ जब भी दिल्ली में कुछ होता है तो उन्हीं को हम कष्ट देते हैं। मैं आदरणीय गेशदोर जी का स्वागत करता हूं और उनसे अनुरोध करता हूं कि बौद्ध धर्म के बारे में हमें कुछ बातें बताएं। बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि। धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि।
गौतम बुद्ध का पूरा नाम सिद्धार्थ गौतम बुद्ध था। गौतम बुद्ध का जन्म 563 ईस्वी पूर्व कपिलवस्तु के पास स्थित लुम्बिनी वन में हुआ था। ये स्थान आज नेपाल में है। इनके पिता राजा शुद्धोधन इक्ष्वाकु वंशीय क्षत्रिय थे। सिद्धार्थ के जन्म के 7 दिन बाद माता महामाया का निधन हो गया। मौसी महाप्रजापति ने इनका पालन पोषण किया। जीवन के 29वें बरस में पत्नी यशोधरा और पुत्र राहुल को छोड़कर ये सन्यासी बन गए। कठोर तपस्या से इन्हें ज्ञान की प्राप्ति हुई। इसके बाद सिद्धार्थ महात्मा बुद्ध कहलाए।
Thank you, Dr. Karan Singh ji, and all the viewers. It's a great honor for me that I'm being invited here. I give a talk on Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy. So basically, we see that the humanity is faced with crisis, problems, international problem, national problem, domestic problems, and so forth, and that too over the ages. And because there's many teachers came on this earth, many great teachers of all the different religions, they came on this earth, and just imagine if they are to meet all together, they'll be so happy to see that we are like-minded people. We are all together to work for the betterment of the humanity, to solve the ills, to remove the tears of humanity. So with this in mind, we need to keep in mind that all these different religions, they are for the good of the humanity, and we should all embrace each other with love and affection. And they're all good messages. Philosophy to give rise to how to cultivate this love and affection within us, to embrace each other so well, so we can extract good things, values from the messages, advice from all these religions. And India is an incredibly great birthplace of these philosophical traditions. So with this in mind, pertaining to Buddhism, Buddha, as we all know, is one of these great teachers who solely worked for the welfare, to bring about harmony, to bring about peace and joy on the basis of understanding the wisdom of interdependency, unconditional love on the basis of understanding interdependency. So with this in mind, I remember that when I was young, one of my teachers, I went to ask a question. I was doing my physics, chemistry, biology then, and I went there as a young boy to ask a question to this teacher, and the teacher said, if you have no problem, you don't need the teachings of the Buddha. So this is incredibly the revolutionary thinking. Even today, I'm really struck with awe, wonder. Finally, the humanity, the harmony with humanity, the dialogue and joy of the humanity. That is what for all these great teachers of the various traditions of Hinduism, Islam, Jainism, Sikhism, Baha'i, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, all these traditions, they came into being in order to heal the world. It was 2,500 years ago that Prince Siddhartha appeared on this earth to share the light of the wisdom, to light the light of the compassion to his world, how to heal the world. And for this, as we discussed earlier, that the world is in pain. The world is broken apart. And this pain, what is that pain? Is broadly twofold. One is fearless, the fears, natural calamities, and the man-made problems. And on the other side, we seek happiness, yet we are deprived of happiness. The COVID, and today Omicron, is such a great threat and fear to the humanity. So how to solve these two problems? This is a problem. This is the issue. So with this in mind, the Buddha, the message the Buddha conveyed is that there is no shortcut. The Buddha made it very clear that since that we don't want suffering, don't impose suffering on others. If you impose suffering on others, you will experience the pains. And what you want is happiness. Share happiness with others. You will have the happiness. And how to do that is by taming the mind. Commit no evils. Accumulate as great wealth of virtues as possible. Subdue your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. So with this in mind, so the question is how to bring about fearlessness and how to expand the circle of happiness. For that, in Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist psychology, there's a teaching of how the mind works. Oftentimes, Buddhism is also referred to as the science of mind, how the mind works, and where our mind, the cognitive thought process of our mind, that is extremely important, and when the cognitive thought process of the mind, when it goes wrong, then our emotions go wrong, because the cognitive thought process sees things in a different way. For example, say a glass of water. Ordinary people will see this as a water. A chemist will see this as H2O. And a physicist will see this as electrons, protons, neutrons. Who is correct? Who is wrong? Answers all are correct, but depending on how you cognitively see the object, that determines what is your emotional feelings. For example, if you look at the flower is very beautiful. It gives you an emotional feeling of joy. The same object, the flower, you will see it on the cellular level, on the level of the chromosomes. The chromosomes are seen as like the striped brownish snakes. It's very repulsive. The same object now gives rise to repulsion. And then you see it on the level of the atoms. It's very neutral. Your feeling of joy, repulsion, they all stop. There's a feeling of a neutral feeling coming to being. So from this, what we come to deduce is that our cognitive thought process that determines the state of your feelings. And the state of the feeling determines how your mind reacts. You react, or you stay calm, or you run away. That's all determined by the cognitive thought process. So with this in mind, given that the cognitive thought process plays a very important role for the plight of the humanity, your happiness, your sadness, the fear, all these things are determined by the cognitive thought process. For that matter, the Buddha emphasized so much on the need to know how to fix, how to rectify this cognitive thought process. And cognitive thought process, it involves two things. One is the object, and the other is the subject. The subject interacts with the object, and depending on how you see the object, and the same object has the ability to give rise to three different emotions: anger, attachment, and neutral. So, but ordinary people, when we end up into terrorism, when we end up into all these, the problems, creating problems to the world, fighting in the name of religion, and on the basis of the whatever situations we fight, including domestic violence, it's all because of seeing things in a very different way. So whereas if we learn how to see things properly, cognitively seeing things properly, so for that matter we need to know the ontological reality, what constitutes the objective reality there. So for this, the Buddha emphasized so much on the need for us to learn the philosophy, to explore deeper into the reality. Today, we see that it has a great resemblance, it has a great parallels, or it is seen as greatly as compatible with the quantum mechanics, relativity theory, and so forth. So where the subjectivity is emphasized, objectivity is actually our delusional, which is why we end up into all these emotional states, and thus putting ourselves into stress, anxiety, and oftentimes the committing suicide. This is very unfortunate. It's all because of failure to see the objective reality clearly. And then who sees this objective reality? It should be your mind. Well, we also need to know the mind, how the mind works. For this, again, the Buddha emphasized so much on the workings of the mind, which is also known as the Buddhist psychology. Tremendous emphasis on psychology, how to make the mind, how to see the mind first, how to see the mind, how does the mind work when you go into rage, anger, fear. The COVID-19, Omicron, there's so much of fear there. So what is really happening there within your mind? When anger, domestic violence, and so forth, what is really happening there within our mind? These are all well reflected by studying what the mind is constituted of. And then alongside the positive mental states, how the positive mental states can be created. Again, just see how the mind works. And on that basis, fixing the cognitive thought process fixes the feelings, and fixing the feelings fixes the emotional states or your intention for the mind to move, to be pulled towards the object, to be pushed towards away from the object, or to maintain calm, poised, and tranquil, peaceful. These are all determined by the psychology. So there's a tremendous role to play with respect to the psychology, the philosophy, and then how to impart these information so well, the psychology and philosophy so well. So these two are done on the basis of studies of logic. So in this tradition, there's again a tremendous emphasis on logic, just as for modern physics. The rigor will be compromised if there is no mathematics. So just as mathematics is the language of the modern physics, logic is the language of the philosophy and the psychology. So with this in mind, I say the Buddha's teachings, how to rectify, finally, how to bring about a universal compassion, universal happiness, and your local happiness, your individual happiness, and how to get into the fears. So these are all being done on the basis of fixing your mind and not through blind faith. So the emphasis on, the wisdom should be the ground, the fabric of the whole Buddhist teachings. And this Buddha teaching, what the Buddha taught as the message for the world. So this today, we see that is classified into, broadly speaking, two groups. One is known as the Buddhist teachings in the Pali language, and the other one is known as the Buddhist teachings available in Sanskrit language. So Sanskrit Buddhism in Sanskrit tradition Buddhism, Pali tradition Buddhism. And Pali tradition Buddhism, we see that today it was primarily what you see in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, Vietnam, and so forth. And the one in Sanskrit, you see that one which both disseminated originally from Nalanda Monastic University in India, 1st century AD. From there, it went to China in the 2nd century AD. And then in 7th century and particularly 8th century AD, it went to Tibet. So these two are known as the Sanskrit tradition Buddhism. So these are the two broad categories. And with this in mind, in essence, if somebody were to ask you what is Buddhism, just let your two hands come out and clap. We see that the sound of the clap is the metaphor for the miseries that we go through, that you go through, that I go through, that the whole world is going through because of the Omicron, and because the whole world is going through because of all the unnecessary, the problem, man-made problems. So these problems, this sound, if you don't want to feel the sound of the miseries, what should you do? Either you stop this right hand or stop the left hand. And if you are able to withdraw one hand, the other hand, there's no sound. the sound of the misery star. Likewise, the Buddha taught that while we need to take care of the external factors, at the same time we are not to miss to take care of the internal factors. Of the external factors, in the internal factors, we remove if you can remove the one factor, then the sound of misery stops. So external factors, they're innumerable in number. Try your best to reduce the external factors, but the internal factor is just 2. Remove the internal factors, and the wise people will just see that remove the internal factors, the sound of the misery starts. What are the internal factors? One is ignorance, and the other one is selfishness. These are the 2 internal factors, and all teachings of the Buddha, they are directed towards how to fix their self-centered attitude by self-grasping ignorance by giving the wisdom to see the reality as it is. So this reality, the dreamlike reality, as taught by the Buddha, that was what the Buddha discovered. He did not invent. It's for this reason that even the modern science today, physicists, quantum mechanics, the physicists, they talk about the emptiness of objectivity as the ontological reality. So this was what, just as modern science is discovering now, the Buddha discovered 2,500 years ago. So this will help us to fix the ignorance, to remove the ignorance. And the other side, which is to remove the self-centered attitude, the Buddha taught the unconditional love. Just as the other great teachers, like Jesus Christ and Prophet Muhammad, Ram, and all these great teachers, Mahavir, Guru Nanak, Baha'i, Baha'u'llah, all these great teachers, if you see their teachings, they talk universal love and affection. This is so precious, and in fact, we see that India is the birthplace. I would say India is one of the greatest places which gave birth to such a rich tradition of ahimsa, compassion, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama so well indicated wherever he travels, that India is the birthplace of ahimsa and compassion, karuna. So with this in mind, today the need for everyone to come together. There are different traditions of Buddhism, different religions, believers, non-believers, all we need to come together. COVID-19 taught us a lesson that we are not different, we are the one humanity. COVID-19 told us this is what the lesson that we learned from COVID-19. With this in mind, the universal ethics, which is to be embraced by everyone, this is what His Holiness the Dalai Lama is advocating to the world as a legacy of his lifelong legacy for the world, that the world should be a better place of harmony and joy and compassion. Oftentimes, I share with people, you can enjoy pizza, but not necessarily you have to become Italian. Likewise, you can enjoy the messages of the Buddha and messages of all the different religions. You may not necessarily become Buddhist. So with this, if you really want to know what message to take, what kind of counseling that you want to take from the Buddha, is twofold. One is your problems are rooted to 2 things. One is ignorance, and the other one is selfishness. And the ignorance, that is to be gotten rid of by understanding the interdependency. The world is interconnected. Your family members are interconnected. All the citizens of India, all the citizens of the world, they are all interconnected. If you know this, your mind will become very broad and you will not be affected by external factors easily. This is one. Number 2 is what deprives us of our happiness and what attracts miseries is the selfishness. Where there is a selfish person, the whole environment will be spoiled and the person himself or herself is going to be very unhappy. So how to get rid of this? Just see how to expand your love and affection. This is what Albert Einstein said, that all our problems are because of the optical delusion of seeing things as I and you. That makes the person selfish. And how to get rid of this, he advised, expand the circle of your compassion. So these are 2 messages that you can take away. and just see how to apply this in your life and make yourself a happier person. At least make your mother a happier person, your family members a happier person, and then the world, the countrymen and the world a happier person. So with this, there are many such good messages that you can take from all the different religions. Best of luck. Thank you.
आदरणीय दो जी का धन्यवाद। उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे ढंग से हमें बुद्ध धर्म के बारे में बातें बताई हैं। आज के लिए इतना ही। अगला कार्यक्रम हमारा जल्द ही आएगा, जिसमें हम एक और धर्म के विषय में कुछ बातें आपके सामने रखेंगे। तब तक हमें आज्ञा दीजिए। धन्यवाद।